Hello Flosstube, my name is Kristen. If you're new here, this is a channel about cross stitch, and if you are returning, thank you very much for coming back. Today is Wednesday, October 2nd, and this is going to be a review of the projects that I did in September, which was my second month of Mirabilia. So I worked on 4 Mirabilia projects and then my 2 monthly focus pieces. So I'm going to go over those. And I'm going to show you the projects I'm going to work on in October, which I mentioned in my previous video was going to be a month of Teresa Wentzler. And then I thought it might be fun to have you guys choose what I stitch on in November. So if you've seen the last couple of videos, I changed up the format a little bit, and I'm going to do like a theme per month until I get tired of doing that, and then I'll just go back to random stuff, I guess. But as I kind of labeled and listed things, I ended up coming up with about 9 ideas. So I just picked out 4 of those ideas for November. November, I am going to a retreat, so I tried to pick things that might be fun to stitch on at a retreat. But first, I'm going to show you what I worked on in September. So I'm just gonna pick off the pile. So I did work on my Rose of Sharon. And I had her, and I'll put where she was when you last saw her. I had done her hair, and I think I had just done her face and hair last time. So this time I worked on her arms, which I struggled with a little bit because I really wanted to try to get up to here and work on that art. So at least I got her arms done, although I'm not sure if I love them because I'm just not good with the skin. And I'm just doing 2 over 1. I'm not trying to do 1 over 1. I just haven't really mastered fractionals yet, so I'm just doing the best I can. And this is on a 28 count Lugana from Chromatic Alchemy in the color Petra. Oops, losing stuff already. I just felt like this arm was kind of, I don't know, not as streamlined as it looked on some of the other Stitchers projects that I saw online. But once I filled in some of the dress and some of the flowers, it looked like it kind of made it look a little bit more like a human arm. And I did convert the hair to auburn, or brownish auburn. I worked on her for, I think almost a week. Actually, now that I think about it, I think I did get down, I think I did fill in some of her dress too. There is a house full today. Everybody's home from work, so you might hear some rumblings and bumblings out in the hallway. Who knows? Plus the dogs are kind of bouncy right now. Then I worked on my spooky cat from Nora Corbett's Patreon from 2022. And I've been struggling with the black. And my goal was to finish all the black, and I did, which was great. And then I washed it, hoping it would tighten up the stitches a little bit, and I still don't really love the coverage. And this is on a 28 count Lugana that I dyed. I was happy with this. It was one of my successes. I tried to dye fabric since I saw you. It didn't go well. I'm not even going to show it. That's how badly it went. So, I mean, you can see how much of the fabric shows through. I don't know. I guess if you're not on top of it, it's not too bad, but I just hate, there's a lot of water lilies in here, and I'd hate to waste them all and end up not liking it. We'll see. At least I made my goal on that, so I did get all the black done. And I only worked on that for 2 days. So those were whips that I already had. These next 2 are new starts. And this one is Peacock by Mirabilia. It was from a retreat from 2019. I don't know if you can, I'm not sure if it's better to have it. I guess that's not too bad. And I just chose, I dyed this fabric too. I just thought the whites would really pop on it like a dark purple. And this one called for water lilies. But I ended up going to my first needle workshop, which was really fun. And most of what I got there, I'm going to end up showing in all these projects. So that lady was super. I'll put the link to her Actually, she doesn't have a link, but I'll put the name of her shop in the description box. It was just outside of Worcester, Mass. And she ended up helping me pick some Weeks Dye Works. So I was going to try to sub out different colors, and I ended up going with the variegated. So I ended up with, I can't read it, so I'm not going to make you suffer through watching me dig it out. And now this, well, I'll just show you what I did. And on screen, it's a darker, deeper purple in person. With that light, it almost makes it look more of a wine color. But in this thing, when I took it off Q-Snap, it almost looks like it's going crooked. And I have one other project on. I know it's just maybe an optical illusion because of the way that it's cut. I'm sure when it's blocked, it won't look crooked. But I worked on this for quite a few days too. This is 28 count. And I did, as you can see, this is one of the variegated and some of the blue, but then look at his legs. His legs really blend in too much, and that's just back stitching, so I'm not sure. I may have to pull those out and just go with a different color because it's hard to see. Other than that, I think the fabric's a little funky. I think that came out pretty okay. I do like the way that the white looks on that. So I'm mostly happy with it. And then I started, oops, discombobulated here. Excuse me for reaching. I started on Cathedral Woods Goddess. This was my other new start. And I am stitching her on 28 count linen from Pictures Plus Ancient. And, let me see. She's got a ton of metallics. Ooh, and beads. Lots. So I just watched, I've mentioned before that Sharky Stitcher is one of the YouTubers that I like to watch. Flosstubers I like to watch, and she had, I guess you could call it a tutorial on using a flat iron to flat iron her threads before she stitches, so I might actually try that on my CXC flosses and maybe even metallics, because it did look like it, if you just do it real quick so you don't damage it or melt it, it looked like it might make that process with metallics a little easier. I'm going to try it. But this is as far as I got on her, and I worked on her for 6 days. Because this all around, this whole section is just metallics all in there. She's a bead heavy girl. I think she's going to look good on this fabric. I know I haven't, obviously I didn't take care of the edges. This was a gargantuan piece that I bought, and I cut it in half, and I used the other half for my Pern piece, which I finished and showed, I don't know, a year or so ago. And I thought that she would look good on that, and I'm happy with it so far. Then I also worked on my 2 focus pieces, the 2 that I work on every month. And I worked on Heaven and Earth Designs Mini Day Night by John Shannon. And I finally spent some time up in here. The last many months that I've taken it out, I've just kind of like played around in here and done some of the block stitching, but I really needed to behave and get back up to the top. So I did 436 stitches on this one. I worked on this for 4 days. And this is 25 count 1/1. So I did fill in a bunch of the little ninja stitches and brought some of that in over there. I just worked down here because I really wanted to see his face, and I wanted to see how the detail was going to be. I'd like to, I know, I just shouldn't navigate too far away because I really like to see, there's a lot of like fine flowers and things down here, and I'm not sure how that's going to look on a mini, because the mini, I believe the mini loses like 30% detail, something like that. So far I'm happy with it. So I'm hoping hoping the flowers will be good. And then last but not least, my P51, which I am making as a gift, aiming for Christmas. I didn't really get that much done on it this month, though, although I do have some time off in November. I have a week off. I am going to retreat, although I probably won't. Well, I don't know. I still haven't decided. Well, because you guys are going to help me decide what I stitch in November, and then I'll decide what I'm going to stitch on the retreat. This is on Sunflower printed fabrics in the color Wispy Clouds, and it is 18 count. And I worked on this for only 2 days. But I did fill in, I think I filled in quite a bit here, and I'm pretty sure I finished the tail. And over here, it's just going to be a lot of blocks. I think that fabric's cool. Yeah. They have a lot of cool fabrics. I keep looking back to their website to see if I can, if there's anything else I could use, but I did buy a new chart at that needlework store, which I'm going to show you because it's in one of my clumps of charts that you guys are going to help me choose. So that's what I worked on in September, and P51 and the mini day night are also going to be what I work on in October. And then I'm going to work on, this is kind of scary to me because I've been working on the Princess and the Dragon, and I'll show you my little freebie dragon mashup. Those are fairly easy. The 2 new starts, I'm kind of scared because they don't look like they're going to be easy. But let's start with what I've already worked on a little bit. So let me have to open this. This is the Princess and the Dragon, and it is in cross stitch, myth and magic, wizards, angels, dragons, mermaids, cherubs, unicorns, and fairies. Yeah. I honestly don't remember what part I worked on last time. I haven't taken it out for a while. And I am, this is just a antique white Lugana. I'm pretty sure it's antique white. That's the progress I have so far. I think I spent time on the dragon last time. And the time before that, I think I filled in some of the grass in the castle. I should probably work on her a little bit. It would be nice to fill this in. I don't know. I'll decide when it's time to take them out. Since it's October 2nd, I did start to work on my freebie dragons last night. Not that I got a whole lot done, but which is what I'll show you. I'll have to put a picture up because I don't have a picture on me. Just get him wrapped up. So this was, or is, Stretch. Stretch, honestly, I got pissed at myself stitching on him, so I just left him and I moved up to Futurecast. And I'm doing them all in the as charted colors because I'm also going to do, wait a minute, there's another one, and I can't remember his name right now, Rampant. And I did, there was a PDF thingamajig that I used on the computer. I was able to flip Rampant because Futurecast and Rampant both faced this way, and I wanted the 2 of them to face each other. So I did flip the chart. It's just whether or not my brain can handle the flipped symbols. So I don't think he's going to take me too long. I'm not going to be silly enough to say I'm going to get him done because his wings are pretty big, but I might get a good chunk of him done, and then maybe the next time I take it out, I'll start on Rampant before I go back to this naughty boy, because what's more naughty me, I just made mistakes and I got frustrated and I kind of gave up on him for a little bit. So then the 2 new starts are going to be the Guardian, which was a kit my husband bought me for Christmas a few years ago, and it looks terrifying to me. Yeah, if you stitch shirt, you know, it just blends and blends. And I tried to buy some of those, trying to figure out how to organize. You know, I have thread boxes because I usually use bobbins. So I bought a bunch of these that I thought might help me with blends. I don't know. I saw somebody online did that and I thought that was a good idea, so I'm going to try it. Because then I also have the Storyteller, which I showed a few months ago. I found this over the summer. So this came with just like an off-white Lugana. And this, of course, didn't come as a kit. It was just the chart. So I ended up just going with a opalescent white, which I thought might be fun for them. So those are the projects that I'm going to stitch in October. Then I thought it might be fun for you guys to choose what I'm going to stitch on in November. So I picked, because I'm still going to have those 2 focus pieces every month. I really can't handle stitching on more than 6 projects in a month. So I'm just flipping these pages, sorry. And like I said, because I'm going to that retreat, I tried to pick 4 categories that I thought might be easy to take with me and stitch there. So these are in no particular order of preference or anything. Let me just see if I can get them all. Make sure I got them in the right grouping. I think I do. So one group is just kind of like general month of like fantasy. So some of these I've already started, some are whips and some are new starts. So this would be a group of 4, and this is going to be Celtic Twilight, Avatar, Magical Wizard, and Mayari. So Celtic Twilight by Joan Elliott. This is a whip. I have started her on 28 count Lugana in the color Barnwood from Pitches Plus. That's where I am on her. And then I was going to start Mayari from Bella Filipina. So that would be a new start. I do have to show off the fabric though, because I love this fabric. This is a Phantom. Ooh, I almost dropped all the threads. They're tucked in there. I was wondering why it felt so thick. This is Linen by Pitches Plus. And I know that comes a little bit, I don't know if I have my ring light set weird, but that looks a little bit, it's not quite that dark and it's got more purple in it, but you get the idea. Oh, there we go. That's better. I have been eyeballing that fabric for a really long time and just never really had the right chart that I thought would go well with it, but I think she's going to look great on it. So it would be those 2 along with, this is another whip. This is Black Swan's Avatar, 3rd Wizard in the Enchantress series. And I am doing him on 28 count linen. This came kind of as a kit. I bought it on one of the cross stitch groups from a woman who was selling her humongo stash. And it came with the fabric and the metallics and the beads. That's where I am on them. This one's pretty fun to work on. And then with them, I also decided to put, because I guess I thought wizards should go together, the Magnificent Wizard by Dimensions. I think I got this for my birthday. I think I might have bought this for myself for my birthday. This year, I don't remember if it was this year or last year. So that would be a new start. So there would be two new starts in that month if we chose those. So those 4. And I'm going to list them in groupings in the description box. And then this would be, the 2 of these groups are kind of dragon heavy. So if you guys are going to get tired of dragons, since most of my Teresa Wenslers are dragons, then I'm sorry. So this would be 2 ink circles. Elemental Dragon's Fire. And I'll show you where I am on this one. And this is Earthen 18 count Ada, obviously. Pitches Plus, and that's, I'm doing all 4 of these. 3 I've started. This is the one I have the most progress on. Oh, and I'm using Weeks Dye Works Brick, I believe. Floss on that. And then I chose to go with that. The Ink Circles Elemental Dragons Air. I'm doing them all on 18 count. This fabric I got from Chromatic Alchemy. I'm not sure which way it goes. I think it goes this way. Not that it matters because it would all kind of look the same. That's the... It's funny, some fabrics this light shows darker and some it shows lighter because this is actually slightly darker in person. And I'm using Weeks Dye Works Eggplant on them. This is Chromatic Alchemy's, I think, Malva. But they're not dyeing right now, so I guess if you like it, I'm sorry. I guess you won't be able to get it. Then these next two would be new starts. So this one is a chart that I bought at the Needlework store. I've never had any charts from Firewing Designs. I don't know. I just thought this looked cool. So this is the chart Smoke. Except my intention, and I just thought it would make sense to stitch them on something that looked like flame. So I actually went way out of my comfort zone and got like an orangey red fabric. And then I realized that might have been a mistake because his head and face are pretty orange and yellow, but that's okay. And I am not going to stitch the words. And then I got all the floss, but what I decided to do was it calls for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It calls for 5 metallics, but only for the antenna, the eyes, and the star. I just didn't feel like buying all that for just that tiny little bit. So I have that DMC that's not metallic. I don't know how to pronounce it, so I don't want to butcher it. But it's got just like little flecks of some sparkle in it. I decided to try that. So we'll see how that goes. But this is the fabric that I got. I did think it was going to be slightly more red than orange, but I still think it'll look cool, so I'm going to go with it. And this is Lava from Picture This Plus 28 count linen. And now that looks lighter. That looks more like what it looks like in person. I have never stitched on anything this color. Blues and purples are definitely my thing, but I just thought that they would look cool on that because I thought smoke, fire, with a smoke that's fire, so I thought it would look nice. So that would be one more to go with that group. This is another Black Swan chart. This is Dragon's Lair. And I have 28 count linen in the color Opal from Picture This Plus, which honestly, I forgot that I had that. And I don't think this is going to show up in there. It has some, like some pink hues to it, which it's kind of sort of picking up. So those 4 would go together. Or 1, 2, 3. Let me see what I got here. I put sorry, I'm trying to remember what I put with what. Okay, so these 4 would go together. And this is just another fantasy type of a month. This would be the Unicorn. I have one more Teresa Winsor. This one's just as frightening as far as the number of blends. And this is out of her book, The Best of Teresa Winsor Fantasy Collection. So if anybody's not familiar, that is what that looks like. I've had that one kitted up for a very long time. So the Unicorn would go with Lavender Lace's Firefly Fairies, which is a whip, which I am doing on Fiberlicious Yummy Fibers Amazing Grays, a 28 count linen. And that's what I have done on them so far. I just thought the ombre was really cool, and I was hoping that they would really pop on that. And I'm not really sure why I paired everything up with everything, but This would be another new start. This would be Lily Pond Dreams by Black Swan, which I thought was just cool. So I've got a wizard by them, a fairy, and a dragon. And then they would also go with, I showed this one to you. This was something I bought just the last month. This is the Winter Fairy Spirit, which I thought would be a nice companion to Midsummer Night's Fairy. This is the one I had tried to dye some fabric for, and it came out awful. Like, I won't even show it. Ugh, it looked like purple mud. It did not come out good. So when I was at that needlework store, I stitched, I don't think you can see her from here, I stitched Midsummer Night's Fairy on just a plain linen, natural linen. So I was looking for something like that. And she had a lot of really pretty fabrics in that store, but most of them were like 32 count, which I just try not to use that too much. I have some projects on 32 count, but I wanted them to be similar. So I ended up getting Glasgow linen in 28 count. I don't know. I've never stitched on that kind of linen before. And it just looks like a natural linen. She said it was really nice to stitch with, and that the fibers were kind of almost roundish, and that it was pleasant to stitch on. So we'll see. So I'm going to stitch her on that. So those four would go together. Nope. Yep, that was all four for that group. And then the last choice is, I think, another dragon heavy month. So I have three. This would be a new start. Three baby dragons by Shiny Suns cross stitching. Sorry, it was a long day at work. My brain is like, blah. I just love them. I think they're super cute, and I bought black fabric, so my plan is to not stitch the black, and at least in the background, and then just stitch them. I think they're super cute, and they would be paired up with 2 more ink circles. This would be a new start. I think if I did this, there'd be 3 new starts out of the 4. Oof. All right, so this is ink circles water. The only one I haven't started yet. And I've got another piece of 18 count from Chromatic Alchemy. And I don't remember its title. And ooh, that's way too light. It's definitely like a baby blue. And then the last elemental dragon would be Earth. And I have done this one on 18 count from Picture This Plus in the color Jade. And I can never remember the name of the Weeks Dye Works I'm using on this one. But it's a nice variegated, like chocolate brown, almost black in spots. When I put things in the description box, I will put it in there in case anybody's interested. And then that leaves another new start, which would be Joan Elliott's Celestial Dragon. I've also had this one kitted up for a very long time. But I had not planned, you can see the border, that like whitish, I think it's the metallic. I plan to not stitch that. And I'm going to use the other side of the fabric that I got. I think you can kind of see Willis over there. This was the darker side of the fabric, which I thought kind of looked more spacey. So that's what I'm going to stitch. I don't know which side I'm going to use. That's what I would use for Celestial Dragon. So if you guys can help me, you vote, and then whichever one has the most votes for the grouping of 4, I will do in November. I did frame Stargazer, and then I just realized that I left it up there. And I guess I'm just going to stand up and be rude and go get her because I don't know how to pause this thing, so I'll be back in 1 second. All right. Sorry about that. I meant to put her down here so she was easily accessible. So I framed her a little differently. I've always done pinning and then lacing, which just takes a really long time, but I feel like I can adjust that after if I'm not super happy with it. And I've had to take both of my other framed projects out, unlace them a little bit, and just kind of start cinching up the corset in different areas just to make me happier with the way it looked. But when I went to Hobby Lobby and I talked to the framer, and he was super nice and he gave me all kinds of tips, which was months ago, and I didn't remember all the tips. I wish I could have recorded what he was telling me. So he had me try to just do pinning. He had me buy the right pins and all that stuff. And I did it, but I just feel like I had less control over what was happening. So I don't know if I'm going to take her out and tweak her or not. And I had a really hard time ironing this fabric for some reason. This frame I got on Marketplace. Oh, see if I can do that without catching. I am happy with her. I'm not sure where we're going to put her. For right now, they're just sitting on this big old piano thing over here. Because this frame is really, actually, she's the biggest of them all. Even though they're all 16 by 20, but it's so much wider here that she's going to take up a lot of room. But I'm happy that she's done, and I think she came out pretty good. So I did want to get her done during one of my Mirabilia months. So she is finished. So I hope that all made sense. I'm kind of digging the new format. I'm stitching on a lot of new things, which is kind of fun and terrifying all at the same time. So if you guys could just throw me a comment, throw me a vote, which projects you want me to stitch on in November. So I have parts 1 and parts 2 of Fantasy Months and parts 1 and parts 2 of the Month of Dragons, and I will list them all in the description box with like a 1, 2, 3, 4, and whichever one gets the most votes are the ones that I will stitch in November. So until then, happy stitching, and I will see you early November. Bye!